Welcome back to Chow Time Pods. Your host, Red. I got a video today from men only.
My friend John just posted a video, and it was not just posted. He posted a video a couple whiles back talking about how men can get DNA tests off of Amazon to test their children. They don't even have to tell the baby mom type shit. Yeah. He mentioned that in the comments there was reactions from women. Most of the reactions I saw was, why would you go and do that shit? He don't trust me type shit. And the other ones weren't really rational arguments. They were just kind of hooping and hollering in the comments. I've said this a million times over the course of my social media platforms that I believe that DNA tests should be mandatory at the time of birth. Because if it's mandatory, then the woman's feelings don't get hurt about man don't trust me, but then the man gets the 100% security of knowing that the person that he is about to be financially responsible for actually belongs to his genetic pool. You feel what I'm saying? And I caught a fuck ton of backlash on that one. But I think the bigger thing that people are escaping...
Isn't it crazy that women get backlash for just agreeing with men? Anything that women do that sides with men, they're pick-me's, they're misogynists, they have internal misogynists or misogyny going on.
If you are one of those women in the comments hollering about somebody DNA testing your kid, that gives me the belief that you are hiding something.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that's necessarily the truth, because if you take it to the fact that you're not hiding anything, but you're like, well, he doesn't trust me, put it this way. If the roles were reversed and the man was the one producing the child, right? And you guys, could be the mom, maybe not be the mom, you would want that 100% certainty.
Correct.
It's not that far-fetched of an idea.
It really isn't. It's just they never think about it because they never have to, because it just pops out of them.
As I said, I will stand 10 toes down on it. At the time of birth, it should be required. DNA testing, paternity testing should be required at the time of birth.
Agreed.
Solves a lot of problems down the line. Have a day.
It really would. But yeah, again, I don't think the government's going to do it because it just, again, puts women in such a bad light that men will feel away. Just like how France says it's illegal for the mother not to consent to DNA tests because it's going to ruin the family.
If she's tripping over a DNA
the
test,
family. Motherfuckers, the family isn't even a family when it's not even his true child.
There's a reason. Let's be real. If you have nothing to hide, then you shouldn't be afraid of the truth. But the moment a man asks for a paternity test and she flips out, gets defensive, starts crying, or plays the "you don't trust me" card, that's a red flag in bold print. Because here's the thing, trust doesn't override facts. If a man is about to dedicate
trust, but verify
18 plus years of his life, time, and hard-earned money to a child, it is not unreasonable to want confirmation that the child is biologically his. You don't build trust by avoiding the truth. You build it by confirming it. The women who say, if he asks for a DNA test, I'd be done with him, are usually the same ones who aren't 100% sure themselves. They project guilt as offense. They know that test has the potential to expose the lie they've been hoping stays buried. A woman who knows exactly who the father is would say, sure, take the test. I've got nothing to worry about. But if she's fighting it, there's a chance she knows there's a chance. And don't let emotional manipulation fool you either. You don't trust me? No, I trust science. And if the roles were reversed, she'd demand proof in a heartbeat. In fact, men have been jailed, financially ruined, and emotionally wrecked over being told they were the father, only to find out years later they weren't.
I mean, how many stories have we gone through? 70-year-old men, 80-year-old men thought they built their legacy. Turned out none of their kids was theirs. They built no legacy.
So yes, a DNA test should be standard, non-negotiable. It's not an attack. It's not disrespect. It's due diligence. If she's tripping about it, that's on her. Because any woman with integrity wouldn't flinch. Only the ones who are unsure panic.
DNA tests should be mandatory for every child born, regardless of marital status. Well, this is a hard one. So fundamentally, I agree with this. And we all know the big study that just came out, and it all talked about how of the men who question their paternity, like 75% of them are raising kids that were not theirs. That's a big deal. And I would suggest that anybody who is put into a position of child support, this should be a mandatory thing. The only part that I just struggle with is I really don't want the gov to have, I gotta put my shoes on, I really don't want the gov to have basically an entire list a full database.
I'm in the same boat with her. That was the biggest argument I had about the mandatory DNA testing on everything is the database that they can collect through our DNA that the government can have. And I've watched a lot of sci-fi like Fringe. I remember in Fringe there was a disease they used to target certain genes. Like there was the Genghis Khan gene. How a lot of Asians have that gene in us. You can bioengineer a chemical or some kind of virus or something to just target those particular genes. So only those people get affected or get sick. That's what I'm scared of. But, you know, obviously that's super sci-fi things. But is it really? Is it?
Of everybody's DNA, especially my children's. It's the only thing I struggle with. But I think if you are going to be court ordered to pay money, men should have that option. Now, should it be forced? Should it be optional? Ooh, there's a lot of slippery slopes when it comes to privacy and your like individual liberty and your children's privacy. But fundamentally, I do agree. There has got to be some kind of proof if you are going to indebt a man for 18 years, potentially more, because a lot of these child support orders go far into college years, depending on if they're full-time students and all that kind of stuff. So fundamentally, yes, I agree. But there's some of the details that I'm just struggling with a little bit.
Same.
DNA tests should be mandatory at birth, no exceptions. Let's stop pretending this is some kind of wild or disrespectful idea.
No, I'm not saying it's a wild, disrespectful idea, right? I'm just worried about the data being collected. Remember, data is huge. Why do you think Facebook, YouTube, and Google and stuff make so much money? Because they gather all this data. I don't know what the government or whatever entity has all of our DNA is going to do with it.
The truth is simple. DNA tests should be standard procedure at the birth of every child. Married, dating, single, doesn't matter. Why? Because truth doesn't care about feelings, and biology doesn't care about vows. Let's be honest. Mistakes happen, lies happen, and unfortunately, betrayal happens. There are documented cases where men raised children for years, invested everything, emotionally, financially, physically, only to find out the child wasn't even theirs. Do you realize what kind of damage that does to a man's life, his mind, his trust in people? And guess what? When the truth finally comes out, the courts don't care. They'll still
Never
say,
do.
You're the legal father, pay up. Even when he's not the biological father. That's not justice, that's entrapment.
That's exactly why it needs to be done immediately when the child is born. This is why I fully agree with that, right? Just because if it's done as soon as child support happens or whatever it is, we already know if it's truly the father or not, right? I mean, even with the new Texas law where they might retro when as soon as conception or whatever it is, as long as there's DNA tests, I'm actually not upset about that either. Just make sure that the person that is supposed to be is it.
This isn't about not trusting women. It's about protecting the man, the child, and even the woman if we're being honest. Because if she has nothing to hide, there's no reason to oppose it. You go to the hospital, they take your vitals. You give birth, they weigh the baby. Add a simple DNA swab, and done. It's just facts. And facts don't lie, people do. If DNA testing became routine at birth, paternity fraud would drop overnight. Men would have peace of mind. Children would grow up with the truth.
There'd be a lot more marriages, I would assume. Well, not a lot. The marriage laws are still crap, but you know, at least there's this DNA test going on. I think more men are willing.
And women wouldn't be falsely labeled if they were telling the truth from the start.
We'd probably have more kids out there.
So why fight it? Because deep down, those who protest the most are the ones who know there's something to lose if the truth comes out.
Yep.
If you know who the father is, then a test should feel like a confirmation, not a threat. Bottom line, mandatory DNA tests protect everyone, and any system built on truth should welcome it.
Would you be offended if he asked you for a paternity test?
I would say yes, because it shows that he doesn't trust me. Because I feel like at that stage in marriage, it's like, if you don't trust me, then you shouldn't be with me.
Yeah, I'd be offended.
You choose to be offended, idiots. The word offense is a choice.
And I think it would break something for sure. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it, but I think that would mean there are other issues, like there's something to talk about. But yeah,
so would
I'd
you
be
refuse
offended.
the paternity test?
No, I said I'm not sure I would refuse it, but I think it would break something because the trust is.
Would you refuse it?
I would do it.
You would
Just
do
to
it,
show proof.
but it would destroy your trust, right?
Yes.
Okay. Would you do a paternity test?
I would, but I would be upset that he doesn't trust me.
You'd be upset?
Yeah.
Okay, what about you?
Everyone's upset. Stop being upset. Start thinking like a man at least, or have some empathy. Empathy would be nice. To put yourself in a man's shoes and, realize he has to pay all these things and not be sure if it's actually his.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd do it.
Would you be upset at all?
Honestly, thinking about it, not really.
Mm-hmm.
Just because at that stage, I know, like, if I know my partner well and he's, like, a little bit anxious as a person, I'm just like, okay, you know what? Just to give you peace of mind, here, we'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then if, he gets his answer and he's like, oh, thank the Lord.
She was literally asked a simple question. Would you get offended if a man asked you for a paternity test? And without hesitation, she said yes, because to her, it means he doesn't trust me. Let's break that down real quick. So you're telling me that a man wanting confirmation that he's about to commit to 18 plus years of emotional and financial responsibility for a child he didn't physically give birth to is somehow disrespectful? We get it. Trust is important. But truth is even more important. A paternity test isn't about not trusting you. It's about verifying reality in a world where mistakes, lies, and betrayals are unfortunately way too common. The real question is,
it's almost the norm.
If there's nothing to hide, why be offended? It's like getting offended that your job runs a background check. It's standard. It's policy. It's protection. Let's not ignore the...
I actually think that's a solid example, men only. Just like how, employers do a background check on every single person they hire. Why? So they make sure. It's just a confirmation that they're hiring a good person.
The real issue. There are women out here who've pinned kids on the wrong man, knowingly. And those men, they ended up financially trapped, emotionally damaged.
And that's the part that women don't want to acknowledge. They don't want to acknowledge that women do these horrible, bad acts against men.
And publicly humiliated for trying to be responsible. Meanwhile, the woman walks away unscathed. No punishment, no accountability. So when men ask for a DNA test, it's not disrespect. It's wisdom. It's caution. It's insurance against a life-altering lie. And the fact that some women get angry about it, that speaks volumes. Because truth isn't afraid of proof. Only lies are. At the end of the day, if you're asking a man to step up, raise a child, and build a life, the least you can do is give him the peace of mind to know that child is really his.
And again, we always give women peace of mind on almost everything. When they want us to reassure them, to hug them, to do all the things to give them peace of mind, we do it. We do it without question majority of the time. Nor do we care that we have some pride over it majority of the time either. Right? But when it comes to women, all of a sudden, why you don't trust me? Why don't you trust me?
It's not a trust issue. It's a truth issue. And if that offends you, maybe you're not the one being honest.
So Brett Fairley, who went viral for his insane paternity fraud story recently, was just arrested and made to take down all of his videos. It's a lot, but I'll give you the quick breakdown. So Brett is a young man who ends up getting approached by an older woman named Maria who asks him to be her sperm donor. She convinces him with paperwork and everything that it's all on the up and up. He's not going to be legally responsible for this child. Despite this arrangement and them only having a one-night stand to complete this arrangement, Maria ends up finding Brett's mom and grandma and tells them that she's pregnant with Brett's child and convinces them that he should be involved with the pregnancy. His mom and grandma now want to be a part of the baby's life, so they convince Brett that he should be too. So he agrees to start paying child support. But after a little over a year, having paid now $55,000 to this woman for this baby, he ends up taking a paternity test and finds out the baby isn't even his. Not only that, but Brett finds out that Maria likely knew who the real father was this entire time, but refused to disclose it because the real father was married to another woman at the time. Oops. So Brett goes to
Diabolical.
court for paternity fraud, asking for his name to be taken off the birth certificate, child support to end, and to be paid back for all the child support he did pay. In a kind of surprising victory, the courts actually do agree to end Brett's parental and child support obligations, but they don't make Maria pay him back, and I'm pretty sure his name is still on the birth certificate. The judge also assigns a mutual restraining order for the both of them, meaning that neither of them can ever talk about this case again, basically a gag order. But according to Brett, Maria broke this order almost immediately by contacting his family, telling them that he's a deadbeat who abandoned his child. So Brett decides that he too is going to defy the order and clear his...
It's just so crazy how women can lie to themselves, put themselves in such a delusion to still keep lying to people. He's a deadbeat. He's not taking his... We have DNA proof, ya whore.
name, and that's when he made a multi-part series detailing all the lies, how he got played, and also his own mistakes along the way to help educate other men. I actually remember one interview where Brett was asked what he would tell his younger self if he could, and he said that if he had ever heard a story even remotely similar to what he went through, he would have never been in that situation. So his story does have the ability to prevent this from happening. But
And this is why we cover it. This is like the third time. I'm gonna still keep covering it because men need reminders sometime.
obviously the courts don't want the story out there. Why? It just makes you wonder, especially when you consider that in other countries like France, it's actually illegal for men to perform paternity tests on their kids without the mother's permission because, in their words, it would destabilize the community. And honestly, this whole concept that you have to prove paternity fraud is also crazy to me because it's like, did she say the kid was his? Did the DNA test say that it isn't? Seems to me that there was pretty clear deception involved. But we do have to learn from this, and honestly, this is why a lot of guys are very hesitant to sign anything until they get that DNA test.
And you shouldn't be signing anything until you get that test.
This is also why I think it's really important for women to stop taking DNA tests so personally and making it this big relationship-ending deal. You should want to be able to offer your man that reassurance, and you should also want that reassurance yourself. After all, hospital switch-ups do happen to women too. They can shut him up, but they can't shut us all up, and men need to hear this stuff. Men deserve to know if their kid is theirs or not without being shamed for wanting to know that.
Here's the thing. Men should have the right, without backlash, to ask for and get testing done to confirm the child is theirs. This shouldn't even be a debate. DNA testing should be mandatory. Standard procedure. At birth. Not something men are forced to request after child support papers show up, or once suspicion starts creeping in. Because let's be honest, there are probably hundreds of thousands, maybe even more.
You know, when I think about this, I really think about Me, Myself, and Irene. You know, the comedy with Jim Carrey, where, you know, he just thought his kids were tan, you know, just this year-round tan or something, you know. There's some men that genuinely don't think about these things because they feel this love for these children already, right? But doesn't mean these men are not getting taken advantage of. And in Me, Myself, and Irene, he loved his kids, even though they weren't his kids, but his sons loved him, even though they knew they weren't his father. Like, that's still a good thing too, in my opinion.
Of men raising kids that aren't biologically theirs. And the worst part? Their names are on the birth certificate. Their wallets are being drained. Their lives are being rerouted. All because somewhere along the way, men were told they don't matter. They were told to just trust the woman, even when she's the only one who knows the full truth. And if a man dares to ask for clarity, he's suddenly insecure, disrespectful, accusing, or crazy. Meanwhile, women can ask a man for proof of income, a credit score, his job title, where he lives, who his friends are, and that's called having standards. But a man asking for a simple truth about his own DNA? Apparently, that's crossing the line. Let's stop playing games. If society truly valued fairness, then DNA tests would be automatic.
If society truly, you know, valued fairness, there wouldn't be billionaires in the world, in my opinion, you know. Just saying.
Right there in the delivery room, before any man signs a birth certificate, before any court papers are filed, before anyone's name is dragged.
Again, I said it on the last one. Let's just make it mandatory across the board. I don't care who's collecting the data or doing whatever with the data anymore. Let's just protect men. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. I really appreciate that. And I'll catch you guys next time.